Do you ever wake up in the morning and just feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders? And it feels impossible to carry the weight of the expectations, the burden of the expectations that you've had for yourself. And you are so successful as a woman. You have created and carved this beautiful path in the corporate world, or you've crafted this dream business you always wanted to own, and you got there and you thought, this isn't anything like what I want. I am so misaligned. This is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, and burnt out. And I want to understand, is this all that there is? And if any of that resonates for you, then hi, I'm Jennifer Zenz Olson, founder and owner of Laughing Lotus Wellness and Purpose Coach and Expert. And what I do is work with women just like you who are struggling to reconnect that fire, right? That creative excitement about your job path, that career path, or your business with success and purpose. And somehow in the mix of life, as happens for many of us, things shifted and transformed. And so what we do is we get clarity, and you and I spend time figuring out how you got here, where you want to go, and how we're going to make that happen. And so sometimes we can do that right where you are in the wheelhouse where you're living and breathing. Sometimes we've got to shift gears and move you outside of that wheelhouse. And I know that as a clinical social worker of over 20 years, one of the things that I talked about a lot with people was living with expectation. And we're going to talk today about releasing the burden of expectation. So I want to first define release, because you all know I'm a nerd, you know I'm a language nerd, I love this kind of stuff. And the way that I define it's this: resolve to escape the layers of expectation and self-doubt to evolve. So it's going to lay out a nice framework for the rest of the time that we're going to spend working in this idea of release. And what I really want you to do is to think about that definition with some really powerful words in there, right? It's resolving to do something different, escaping the layers of expectation. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And the self-doubt, so we can evolve and become what we really want to be. And we can really tap into that purpose and that intention for why we're here. So there's two steps. One is, I want you to notice two places in your life that you have expectations that seem to creep up and bite you in the rear. That you're like, you just have these stories and ideas about the way that things should go. And when it doesn't, you find that you get super unraveled about it, okay? And so I am thinking about, there's so many layers to this I could get into, it's not even funny, but what I was thinking about was, I had this expectation that I was going to create this clinical practice, this business that I had for years and years, and that was going to be it. I was going to do that till I was, like totally ready to retire, past retirement maybe, like I got this is going to be the thing, this is my dream business and company. Only to have it morph and morph and morph and shift and change into something I didn't even recognize anymore, number one. And number two, I changed. I went and got yoga education and learned to love meditation and teaching meditation and all of these ideas that shifted the way that I even saw the clinical work I was doing. But that expectation can really screw us, right? Do I have any other holder honors in the room? Anybody go to events, experiences, and things like that and have the whole thing laid out in your mind the way it's supposed to be? How about conversations? Anyone? Bueller? So guilty of this. I cannot even count for you the ways that I've screwed myself this way. And here's what happens. The outcome of that is so much misery. I mean, I cannot even define for you the moments I was so disappointed leaving an event, an experience, an interview. It didn't matter what it was. It could be hanging out with a friend. And I had ideas about the way it should look and feel. So I had to learn the fine art of this, right? Like, okay, this is not serving me. I have this burden, this weight, because I have this expectation about how things should look and go, and that's not what's happening. It doesn't happen that way for almost any of us, just in case, newsflash, in case you're wondering, if you're like super laid back and I'm defining something for you like a no wheelhouse for, bless your heart. And two, here's the second step. Practice doing things without an expectation. So first of all, notice two places that you tend to get caught up in really heavy expectation. And then that next thing is practice intentionally doing things with no expectations. When I began doing this, you guys, it was like the world exploded in joy. I even though it made me anxious in the beginning, it was like, oh, because we like to know what is happening. As human beings, we want to know what's happening. We want to know the gender of our baby. We want to know how super successful our business is going to be. We want to know where we're going to be living in the next 5 years. We want to know who our partner is going to be. We just pick all of these things and we hang our hats on them, and there's this heavy burden of expectation, and like it has to turn out a certain way. And so we want to release into the flow. Like life is happening around us all the time. Things are transforming and changing all the time, which is an expectation, is like an anchor, if that makes sense. What do you think about like, oh, like it's like I hung my hat on this one thing. And when it's not like that, now I'm like disappointed and I'm stressed and I'm scared and I'm anxious and I'm mad and I'm whatever, defeated. Okay, so we want to practice doing things without an expectation. So I want you to try this week for me. Practice doing something without an expectation. See, initially it's going to feel a little uncomfortable. But what happens with time? If you begin practicing this idea, I'm just going to release expectation. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to give it what I've got, and I'm going to know that whatever it is what it's meant to be. Practice it, okay? Because I love this. All right, so what I want to do is I want to invite you, if any of this resonates for you, I want to invite you to head on over to my website where I have tons of tools for purposeful living. And so you can go right into my website. It's laughinglotuswellness.com. Again, that's laughinglotuswellness.com. You head right over, there's a purpose tools button right up top. Click on that. And there's all sorts of content available for you to kind of tap more deeply into this. And so until next time, this is Jen supporting you on your path to purpose.